Welcome Classic Rock fans to an unboxing and a review, my first video in a few weeks in fact. I'd like to thank you all for your kind words of condolence regarding the passing of my mother, and I'd like to thank those kindly folk over at Gentle Giant for sending me a pre-release edition of the new Steven Wilson mix of the Gentle Giant album Freehand. Of course I will unbox and review that, which is what this video is all about. But before we do that, I will, as always, ask you to click like, subscribe and check that bell to get notified of any future uploads. And do be sure to check the links below this video for ways you can support the work done here at Classic Album Review. And believe me, this channel needs all the support it can get. So, no further ado, let's unwrap this item, shall we? Anyway, so here it is. This is Freehand by Gentle Giant, the Steven Wilson 2021 mix. Let's get the cellophane off it, shall we? So there's a CD. It's a nice sort of digipack affair that opens up, revealing a CD and a booklet. Let's take the CD out and we'll get a closer look at the artwork underneath. There we go. And of course there's the disc itself. So there's the spine. And there's the back. And the tracks are, not that you need me to tell you that, of course, just the same on Reflection, Freehand, Time to Kill, His Last Voyage, Taliban to Mobile. Let's have a look at the lovely booklet that I usually send with these things. Let's move that out of the way. Zoom in a bit, shall we? Just seems to be the lyrics. So let's put this back into its slot. So there you are, Gentle Giant, Freehand, the Steven Wilson mix. That's the actual physical item itself, the CD. There is a version, of course, with the Blu-ray, which comes with the surround sound mix. Not that I have a surround sound system, so it'll be fairly redundant in my hands. Anyway, let's discuss the album, shall we? Lennon famously said, that's Vladimir Ilyich, by the way, not the walrus, not the Eggman, that I can't listen to music too often, it affects your nerves, makes you want to stroke the heads of people who could create such beauty while living in this vile hell. Gentle Giant are a band that are simply astonishing to listen to as they torture numerous instruments to create this strange blend, this sublime cacophony, if you like, of music. Kind of like the bastard child of Robert Fripp and William Byrd. And who knows, had they been around in 1917, the October Revolution might never have happened. Our Vladimir might have taken up plein air painting instead. I must admit my biggest regret regarding Gentle Giant is I didn't fork out for the that wonderful box set they put out about a year ago, Buried Treasures, Unburied Treasures, I can't remember what it was called, but it's a wonderful, wonderful document of this band's history. I wish now, looking back on it, I'd forked out, maybe I sold one of my children's kidneys to raise the cash to get it to acquire a copy of this. I think what I'll do is I'll write a begging letter to the Shulman brothers asking them to send me a copy, or failing that things will have to get ugly, I'll threaten to do a critique of Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, the Elton years. But on a more serious note, I'll have to say that Freehand is, I think, Gentle Giant's most accessible album, in my humble opinion. It, very much references that Baroque, medieval aesthetic that we've come to expect from this band, with its wonderful fugues, eclectic instrumentation, and remarkable vocal stylings. The album starts, of course, with just the same, with its finger clicks and that wonderful piano run before we get the stabbing guitar. One might be forgiven for thinking they've inadvertently stuck in an early Peter Gabriel CD when they play this. That is, of course, before we get those wonderful keyboard atmospherics and horns about halfway through. Then we got what many consider the high point of this album, On Reflection, a remarkable number, especially its use of vocals. This is a lovely a cappella vocal fugue that starts off, and those added percussive flourishes are just intriguing. There's no doubt this is the album's defining moment, if I may say so. And Shulman's vocals on this interweave some pretty arresting and beguiling melodies. It's a complex and engaging number, there's no doubt about that. You know, with its lilting medieval midsection, it's a real Renaissance fare. A typical Gentle Giant in the sense it's a smorgasbord of impressions and sounds. So from Kerry Minier's wonderful tuned percussion to Ray Shulman's beautiful counterpoint bass. This album overall is very easy on the ear, certainly by Gentle Giant standards, and that's due to the fact of the employment throughout this album of lots and lots of melodic hooks. But it's still replete, as I said, with those usual Gentle Giant-esque elements, creative components, dry wit, and most of all, superb musicianship and compositions. The title track, again, is also, employs that wonderful use of Ray Shulman's counterpoint bass line, as well as some excellent piano and guitar at the very beginning. That is before it's assaulted by some heavily distorted clavinet, very reminiscent of Led Zeppelin's Custard Pie, without all that lascivious strut. Shulman's vocals, of course, are rather intense, and the melodic line is very much in your face. It feels like, it gets right into your skull like a sonic lobotomy. Like a lot of the music on this album, it's like a dizzying tsunami of sonic impressions. Time to Kill starts off with some fairly dark atmospherics and quickly assumes an art pop prog aesthetic. In fact, Bill Kopp, in his wonderful article on this album, describes it as something like a cross between King Crimson and 10cc. His Last Voyage is the finest song on this album, in my opinion. It sees the band in full storytelling mode as we engage with this progressive rock sea shanty. I don't know if I can call it that, but it's certainly a track that I just find beguiling, and a lot of that's to do with the beautiful vocal style on it. It's a cheery number of a sailor who dies at sea. The haunting vocals are just mesmerising, and the song's fascinating interplay between the lilting plaintive voice and Ray Shulman's bassline jousting beautifully with Kerry Minier's tuned percussion. It's just a delight to listen to. The bass line, when mixed with the guitar and keyboard, it provides a real tempest, no pun intended, of sound which the listener positively drowns amid. There's some wonderful wah-wah guitar superimposed. There's some interestingly jazzy piano-led lines. It reminds me of those stylistic barbarities that Robert Christgau highlighted when listening to Zappa's One Size Fits All. Talabont is an interesting number. It very much feels like William Byrd meets Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And Mobile, described by Bill Kopp once more, as a path between Fairport Convention and Caravan. It certainly has that dry yet plaintive quality. And I think Gentle Giant often employ a lot of folk modalities certainly in their music. There are certainly lots of influences here. One critic has detected a very European classical tradition, specifically in this song, which you can imagine would have pleased Lester Bangs no end. One critic has described this album as avant-garde pop. I'm not sure I agree with that as such. He says it employs a clumsy catchiness in the overall construction of the songs. True, this album is, as I've said, I feel is one of Gentle Giant's most accessible, especially when we compare it to Octopus, for example. But, those Gentle Giant motifs, sonic motifs, are definitely there as they employ a whole smorgasbord and range of instrumentation and vocal styles to captivate the listener. At best, a real cross-pollination of musical form and influences from Baroque tendencies, medieval, classical counterpoint, not to mention interjections lifted from classic literature. And some have said this band are perhaps not so easy on the ear. They don't drift away into prog waffle and musical obfuscation as some of their peers. The music always sounds so fresh, engaging and well thought out. Baffling, no doubt, but a rewarding listen nevertheless. But what of this new remix? What has Steven Wilson done with this album? Steven Wilson has always approached these projects with a great degree of sensitivity to the original aesthetic, and we find that in those wonderful Jethro Tull editions he oversees. Very faithful to the original. The sound is absolutely remarkable, in my opinion. Instruments are clearer, more distinct, and I hate to say it, but I would actually prefer listening to this than to the original album. The drums sound wonderfully fresh and clear, and as they should, because John Weathers was a remarkable drummer. Still is, perhaps. In terms of a comparison with the 35th anniversary mix, I think there's a tendency with its early mixes just to whack up the volume a little bit. Steven Wilson doesn't do that. As I said, he's very faithful to the original aesthetic and vision of the original album. He achieves a greater clarity, I think, on this instrument by instrument, it has to be said. This album now really has a performance quality to it. Anyway, for what it's worth, I would strongly recommend you buy this. I will include the Amazon links below. Anyway, I will leave you by saying that I really hope that Gentle Giant would get back together and do a few shows for a whole generation of fans that have never, ever had the opportunity to see them play live. I think if Robert Fripp can get some incarnation of King Crimson together, not to mention rocking out on a Sunday morning whilst his lovely wife Toyah jiggles her unfettered puppies about, I'm pretty sure Gentle Giant should be able to muster something. Anyway, you've been watching a brief appraisal and unboxing of the re-released Steven Wilson mix of Freehand by Gentle Giant. It just leaves me to say I hope you're all staying warm and staying safe, but more importantly that you keep listening.